Hello everyone. It's been a while since I've made one of these videos. I think I said in the past that I am probably not going to make too many more of them, and I've kind of stuck to that promise. And there are reasons why I don't make these videos much anymore. I don't think people really care enough to sit and listen to me talk for an hour about what I think about some topic or whatever. So, giving my opinions about things is all well and good, but people don't really care that much, so I don't really feel the need to talk at length about things since I don't think people are really that interested anyhow. But I did want to leave kind of one message to the world about something that I kind of went through in my life. I realize the way I phrased that probably makes that sound very dramatic. Sounds like I'm going to leave one last message to the world. It maybe that I don't know if that sounds like I'm going to kill myself or something. I'm not. This is not a suicide note. I'm not like saying I'm going to kill myself or something like that. I'm just saying that I don't know if I'll ever make another YouTube video of this kind, and if I don't, then I'd like to leave this message to the world in the sense that I'd like this to be kind of, if this is my last time talking to you folks, then I'd like this to be my last message. Not that I'm going to leave the world, that I'm planning to commit suicide after this. This just might be the last video of this kind that I make, at least for a long time anyhow. So I want to talk about the topic of, I don't know if you could call it depression. See, the thing is, a lot of people say that I'm depressed, but I don't think that I really am, because depression is, depression is normally something that doesn't have a cause. Like you just kind of inexplicably feel sad suddenly. And if it goes on for a long period of time, like if you endure a long period of time with feeling really very, very unhappy, very, emotionally down, then that becomes depression, or, they call it, depressive disorder or whatever. But I don't think that that's really the case for me, because I usually have reasons for being sad. I am sad a lot. Like I think that I am probably more unhappy personally than average, let's say, than the average person. But I think that there are reasons for that. I don't think that I'm just inexplicably sad. I think that I can explain why I'm sad. I think that I have reasons for feeling that way. And so I don't think that I really have clinical depression, like, psychiatric depression, because that's more usually something that doesn't really have a specific life cause. It's normal to feel sad if something bad happens, if a family member or a friend or somebody whom you care about passes away, or you feel some other kind of you experience some other kind of unhappy thing in your life, or if just you have bad things going on in your life, it's normal to feel unhappy. It's normal to feel down because of that. And I don't want to whine about my life. I don't want to get into details of my personal life, but I don't feel like I have a good life. And so I think it's for that reason that I don't feel very happy most of the time. I don't think that I just feel unhappy for no reason. I don't think that these moods just kind of come upon me suddenly as a result of some, psychiatric chemical thing in my brain. I think that there is a cause for these things. And in my case, it might sound kind of funny. I think a lot of people won't maybe identify with this. But I'm making this video for maybe the small number of people who will identify with this. What I'm going to say in this video is something that applies to me personally. I feel pretty sure that it applies for at least some people in the world, but probably not for most people. So, I think, average sort of, typical person will probably not identify with most of what I say, and probably most of what I say will not be helpful to them. But I think there are some people who will identify and understand what I'm going to talk about and say, and so this video is for those people. But yeah, depression is not always something physical. I think often it's something ideological. What I mean by that is it's a result of not some physical, chemical imbalance in your brain or something that can be treated with, medication or whatever, but a result of ideas that you have in your brain that cause you to feel unhappy. And again, I think that's my sadness tends to be ideological, because it's I can point to specific experiences or ideas or things in my life that make me feel this way. Not, that I just like feel sad for no reason, which I think is more, for no identifiable reason, which I think is more typical of what people call depression, major clinical depression. And the thing that makes me unhappy often, and I think this is true for a lot of people, is the sense that there's no meaning in the world or in the whole universe, that there's no there's no reason really for us to be alive. There's no purpose to our lives. There's no point in being alive. And so rationally, I've often thought that I wanted to commit suicide, not because I felt terribly sad, not because I felt like some deep, incredible emotional pain that I couldn't deal with, but more just because I felt like there was no reason to be alive. It's like, if you have something that you don't need, you'll probably throw it away. Most people, if they have something that they're not using, they don't need it, they'll, try to get rid of it. And so if you're not using your life, my thinking was, well, I'm not doing anything with my life. I mean, I just go to work every day, and after that, I don't do much else with my life. What's the point of a life like that? It's not a life that I want to live. And if I'm not doing anything else with my life, if I'm not doing something with my life that's, meaningful, that somehow makes living worthwhile, then I might as well just die. And that was, I think, a very rational sort of way of thinking about suicide, not because I felt terribly sad. I mean, I did feel, unhappy about it, but the reason why I wanted to die was not so much because I was very sad, it's just because I had no reason to be here. I felt like, I was born because of some, thing that I didn't choose. I didn't choose to be born. None of us did. Nobody chose to be born, obviously. That was a decision made by our parents in most cases, unless it was some kind of laboratory. Okay, whatever. In most cases, like in like 99% of cases, the decision that we would be born, the decision that you and I were born, was probably made by your mother, my mother, the mother of the child. And so nobody has to be born, but you can choose to die. You can choose rationally to die. And you can say, not as a result of some emotional setback or, some kind of personal life disaster, just as a rational decision. I think I'm done living. I'm done with being alive. I choose to die. I think that's a rational thing that people can do. So why are we here? I mean, why do we exist at all? Why were we born? And people ask this question. I think many people ask this question. I personally think that it's a meaningful question to ask. A lot of people say it's a stupid question to ask. It's a useless question to ask because there is no meaning. Just go out and live your life. Go out and have fun. Go, do whatever you enjoy. Go party. I don't know, whatever people enjoy doing. Just have some fun with your life, but don't dwell on this question because there's no meaningful answer to it. Well, I guess they're kind of right, and I guess that answer is kind of where I arrived with my thinking, but I'll kind of take the long way around going there because I think there's a more rational answer that can be given to that question, even though it kind of amounts to the same answer in the end. But if you're still with me, and if you still, if you think that this resonates with you, then I'm going to get into detail. So let me ask you, what is meaning? If you think that there is no meaning to life, then let me ask you, what is meaningful? Ask yourself this question. I'm going to ask some questions. Feel free to obviously pause the video if you want to think about these things, if you need some time to think about it for yourself. But ask yourself, what is meaningful at all? What could even be meaningful? What makes something meaningful? If anything is meaningful or could be meaningful, even theoretically, maybe there's nothing in the whole world that's meaningful, but imagine that something could be meaningful. Where would that meaning come from? What could possibly make anything meaningful? If you think about the universe, and I tend to think about, not only the world. I often, when I talk about these things, I don't just say that the world is in planet Earth. I talk about the whole universe, not just our planet, but the other planets, all the stars, all the galaxies that we know about, and also the ones that we don't know about, but presumably that exist somewhere, far, far away in some other part of the universe. what in this whole huge universe that we exist in, what could possibly be meaningful, and why? Why would something be meaningful? If anything is meaningful, then why is it meaningful, or why could it be meaningful? You know that in space, talking about the universe, if you look up at the sky at night, you see all these stars, you see all these places that, are obviously, in our terms, for us, they're very far away. We'll probably never get, you and I probably will never get there in our lifetimes. But what's there? Are those things important? If you think about what happens, planets get destroyed, stars burn out, or stars explode in huge supernovas. And the question that I ask is, does it matter? Would it matter terribly if some planet, like, I don't know, Mars, whatever, somehow became destroyed by, for example, a supernova? Maybe the supernova in that solar system, maybe not, let's not talk about our solar system, but in some other solar system where there are other planets there. If a planet in some other solar system got destroyed because the star went supernova and became this huge explosion and just giant, burst of energy that just destroyed everything in its vicinity, would it matter if a planet got destroyed if there was nothing on that planet? If the planet was just, a rock with some sand and dust on it? Would that be a tragedy? Would that matter? I don't think so. I don't think most people would care that much. Sand on the beach gets washed away. So the sand will get washed into the sea or blown away by the wind, and who cares? It's just sand. Does anybody really care? I don't think most people do. I don't think most people are crying about the loss of sand on the beach if wind blows the sand away. So why does it matter if some other planet that's, far away gets destroyed? It probably doesn't matter that much. I think most people won't cry over that planet, even if it's a whole planet, even if it's a planet as big as Earth or even bigger than Earth. People probably won't care that much because it's just like, oh, it's just sand and rocks and whatever. It's, nothing, there's no life there. Okay, fair enough. But then let me ask a counter question. Why would it be bad if Earth were destroyed? We have these sort of science fiction scenarios, these kind of Armageddon situations where we think about, what if some asteroid comes and impacts the Earth and our planet is destroyed? Would that be a bad thing? And if you think it's a bad thing, then why? Why is it a tragedy if the Earth is destroyed, but not if some other planet gets destroyed? I guess most people would say the answer is, well, Earth has life on it, other planets might just be rocks and ice and whatever, but Earth has, all these things on it, all these things that are so dear to us. Earth has humans on it. Earth has other stuff on it. I don't need to tell you everything that's on planet Earth, but you understand there's a lot of stuff on planet Earth that's important to us. And I think most people would be sad at the idea of that being lost. If you think about all the people on Earth dying, it's sad. Most people would feel sad at that thought. Or even things. Not just people, but things. Like, there are things that are on Earth that I like. Nature, trees, animals. When I look out my window, well, not now because it's nighttime, but during the daytime when I look at my window, there's a big tree outside that I see. And, I like the tree. I like nature. I like animals. It's sad to me. Even thinking about animals dying is sad to me. And I wouldn't want all of that to be destroyed. So in that sense, those things are meaningful to me. So I think it's apparent, if you think about that, the whole concept of meaning, the whole concept of importance comes from our emotions. Because a person with no emotions, like a total, if you imagine a complete psychopath with no personal emotions or no personal feelings whatsoever, that person probably say, well, who cares if Earth is destroyed? Who cares if everything dies and everything is lost? If everything disappears, so what? Why should we care? Does it matter? I don't care. So yeah, to that person, it doesn't matter. It's not meaningful that there's life on Earth. It's not important. The only real reason why anything could be important at all, the only reason why any kind of importance or value exists, you hear You hear this word values, people have personal values. Why do people have personal values? Because of their feelings. There's not really a logical, rational process that leads you to these conclusions. And people will try to make it seem logical. People will say, well, I think this because of some rational explanation. But in the end, everything can really be boiled down to feelings and emotions. Everything that's valuable to us ultimately is based on a foundation of some kind of emotion. If human life is valuable to you at all, then you feel that way because you have some emotional attachment to it. And because of your emotional attachment to human life, because you want human beings to be alive on Earth, probably for some time, hopefully, then that's why you think that way. You think human beings should be healthy. You think they should be happy. That they should live in safety, without war or poverty or all the other things that happen to them. But why? Why should people live in health and safety and happiness? Because we want that. I mean, the only real reason is because we want that. We emotionally feel that that that's what we want. And I'm not saying that's bad. I'm not saying it's a bad thing to want. But I'm just saying the only basis for that, the only reason why that has any value for us whatsoever, is because we feel that way. Not because we think that way. And that's the thing. A lot of people say, I think ... and then they'll explain what they think, but they don't really think that way. They feel that way. I feel that it's good for human beings to treat each other well. I feel that it's good for human beings to be respectful and considerate of their lives and actions. Why? Because I feel that way. There's no rational explanation why. You can try to put logic. Some people do. Some people try to come up with a rational explanation. Some people will say because of evolution, it's an evolutionary advantage that people cooperate instead of fight against each other. It's evolutionarily good for the survival of the species that we treat each other with consideration instead of being, selfish and cruel and whatever. But even if that's true, even if it is an evolutionary advantage, why do we need to survive? I mean, evolution is basically, it's about survival, isn't it? It's about us not dying, not becoming extinct as a species. Well, why shouldn't we? Again, why shouldn't we be wiped out as a species? Because we don't want to be. We don't want to cease to exist as a species. We have emotional attachment to the idea of our lives continuing. And not only our lives, but future generations. Your children, you want your children to, or even if you don't have children, lots of people don't have children, but you still want other people's children, other young people growing up in the world today. You probably want them to have a good future as well. And what's good, is what is a good future? Well, that's also something that comes from your feelings. Whatever is good and bad comes from your feelings. Good is basically good is kind of a metonym for I like that. Oh, I like that. That means it's good. And if I don't like that, I'll say, oh, that's bad. That's bad. Bad means I don't like it. When somebody says something is bad or wrong, what they really mean is I don't like that. And I'm not saying that there's no right or wrong. I'm not saying there's no good or bad. I'm not, that's, this kind of nihilistic view that, well, nothing really matters. There's no good and bad. There's no right or wrong. I'm not necessarily advocating that. I'm just saying that if there is good and bad, if there is right and wrong, again, it comes only from our emotions. It cannot come from logic. You cannot give an unemotional, completely objective, completely rational reason why human beings should exist at all, or why they should treat each other politely and respectfully, or why they should be even healthy. I mean, I don't like being unhealthy. I think most people don't. But can I give a rational, scientific reason why people shouldn't be unhealthy? No. I mean, there's no reason why people should be healthy. I like being healthy. I feel better when I'm healthy. I think most people do. But that's not a scientific, logical, objective reason why we should be healthy. I just want to be healthy. And again, I think most people do. It's just what we want. There's no real logic to it. So all of this, everything that we live for, this whole, these lives that we have, they're kind of predicated on this foundation of just things that we want. And fundamentally, whatever we want is just, you can't really question it. You can't really say, why do I want it? Why do we want, or you can. You can ask the question, why do I want that? Why do I want to be healthy? Well, I don't have an answer. I can't tell you why I want to be healthy. I just prefer being that way. Why do I want to be safe instead of threatened? Just a preference that I have. I mean, maybe not everybody wants that. Maybe somebody has a preference for feeling differently, but I personally, and again, I think most people just prefer feeling a certain way. So, you can say who cares. You can say I don't care about anything. Who gives a care? Sure, you can think that way. Some people do. But again, the only thing that can possibly make our lives meaningful is our feelings, is our emotions. And I say this because for me personally, that was something a bit difficult to accept. I'm a thinker, I guess you could say. And by that, I don't mean that I'm especially intelligent. I don't think that I'm especially intelligent. I mean, I think I'm not unintelligent, but I think I'm not, of much more than average intelligence, really. I don't think that I have any special great ideas or any special incredible wisdom that, that other people don't have. But I tend to think about stuff a lot. I tend to, overthink, you could say. Maybe I'm an overthinker. Maybe that's a better way to put things. I think about things a lot. And so for me, I tend to have this, I have this tendency to try to look for meaning in things. And I think a lot of people do this. People will look at things that happen in the world, whether it's good or bad. Good things happen, bad things. Again, I said there's no good and bad, but let's say things that we like and things we don't like. Good things are like, you hear a story about, I don't know, you hear a nice story. You hear a happy story and it makes you feel good. Or things we don't like, you hear, something in the news, some tragedy, some people died. It makes you feel bad. It's sad. We feel bad about those things. So, that's what I mean by good and bad. These things happen in such a way that we often ask ourselves, why? Why did they happen? Why did this happen? If you're religious, you might ask, why did God allow it to happen? If you're not religious, you might just say, even if you don't believe in God or anything like that, you might still ask, why? Why did this happen? And, you can give the perfectly rational answer is because that's what happened. It's like, I don't know, if I have like a pen on my table here, I can push the pen and you can say, why did the pen move? Because I pushed it. Why did those people in that accident die? Why did those people die? Because their plane crashed. Simple answer. Very simple question, very simple answer. But that's obviously that's not the kind of answer that people are looking for. People are people want to understand, what's the meaning of it? What is the purpose of this? What is the purpose of going through all this suffering? If we don't get anything out of it, if it has no value for us, then why are we here? Why do we exist at all? Why are we still living? If life sometimes causes us pain, if life sometimes makes us sad, and if there's nothing good in it, I'm willing to endure sadness sometimes if it means that I can have happy moments as well. Because, I understand life is not always good. Life is not just laughing, clapping, being happy 24 hours a day. There are good and bad moments in life. There are moments when you'll be happy. There are moments when you'll be sad. But that balance has to be there. Life has to have those different facets to it. I don't think I'd even want to be happy 24 hours a day because sadness is a normal human emotion. You can't you can't really appreciate happiness if you don't feel sadness sometimes. Only when you have dark days do you understand how valuable it is, how great it is to have bright days, happy days. So I understand that. I'm willing to take the good with the bad, but we sometimes ask ourselves, what's the point? Why do we do all this when there's so much suffering? and we try to look for meaning. And so that's why I'm saying there's nothing to look for. That's kind of the secret, if you want to call it that, secret to life. There's not really something to look for. A lot of people say that I'm looking for meaning in life. I'm searching for a reason to be alive. And they kind of go into these, sort of philosophical journeys of the mind, if you will. I'm not against philosophy. I think that there is really value to philosophy. I have studied philosophy myself. I think that, some philosophical ideas are interesting, and not only interesting, but possibly useful. So I think there is value in learning about philosophy. But what I want to caution people against is going really, really deeply into philosophy with the idea that there's some hidden secret truth there waiting for you to discover it. I don't think that's the case. I spent a lot of years being very philosophical. Sorry, I'm doing this a lot. I hope it doesn't get annoying, but I'm just kind of slightly making fun of some of these words. Even though, again, I'm not against philosophy. Some people hate philosophy. Some people really hate philosophy. They say it's too abstract or too theoretical or just too useless, too impractical. I don't think that's true. I think there are applications for philosophy. I think there are ways that you can use it in your everyday life. But yeah, some philosophy can get pretty silly. It can get kind of useless and kind of ridiculous if you go too far with it. So that's kind of what I mean. I think it's not bad to learn about philosophy, but don't go really, really, really deep into philosophy thinking that if I just search hard enough, if I just keep going hard enough and long enough, I'll find some hidden truth, some great, magical, secret hidden truth that will make everything make sense. I don't think that's true. I don't think that's the case. I don't think there's some huge, great, incredible idea just waiting for you to discover it in all those philosophical books that have been written in human history. Again, I think that there is value in reading those books. I have read some of those books. I think that there is value to studying them, but I'm not going to say that you'll find some incredible truth if you just enlightenment if you just go all the way. If you just keep going and keep going. No, I think that's the wrong way to do things, and I think that's one of the reasons why I felt sad for a lot of my life is because I was hoping for some rational sort of explanation of why people live, some sort of rational explanation for why people are alive. I do not think, in fact, I'm pretty sure that you cannot rationally justify human life because, again, the only reason why anything can have any kind of value is because of what we have here in our hearts, not because of what we have here in our heads. It's great to think, it's great to be smart, it's great to be wise, it's great to study philosophy and also other things as well. Not just philosophy. You should study art and science and music and literature and what. It's great to learn things. It's great to educate yourself. It's great to be a learned person, but don't think that you're going to stumble upon some incredible, great hidden truth if you keep going that route. That's not really the purpose of it. I think that's not the purpose of philosophy. The purpose of philosophy is not to lead you to some great, incredible truth that's waiting for you to discover it. The purpose of philosophy is basically to help you, kind of get some perspective in your thinking. I think that's the value in it. So one of the most popular philosophical ideas in our world today, and this will probably continue to be the case going into at least the near future, I think, at least for the next few hundred years probably. One of the most popular and important philosophical ideas was the idea of existentialism. Existentialism being the idea that basically people are not born with meaning, but rather that people create their own meaning. So basically the idea is that your birth was totally senseless. Again, going back to, your parents, your mother chose to give birth to you, not out of any rational thought process, not out of any idea that, my son or daughter is going to, do these kinds of things. I mean, some people do that. Some people do some parents have these dreams for their children and think, yeah, my child's going to become an astronaut or a doctor or whatever. Some parents do that. But in an objective sort of way, in a rational, logical kind of way, your birth was completely senseless. It was done without any real plan, let's say. So you were born not with a mission. People sometimes think that they were born with some kind of calling, some kind of divine calling, to some kind of purpose. If you're religious and you believe, that God has a purpose and a plan for you, I can't say that that's not true. I can't say no. I'm not going to say no, God doesn't have a plan for you. I think that would be presumptuous of me to say something like that, because I don't think that, obviously I can't prove that. I can't prove that God doesn't have a plan for you. I mean, maybe he does. I don't know. But fundamentally, we are born without a real, plan or purpose in life, I think, for the most part. And if there is any meaning in your life, here's where I think existentialists get it a little bit wrong. I think where most existential philosophers kind of blunder a little bit. They say that people have to create meaning, and people get this idea that they have to search for their meaning. I think that people are kind of born with meaning, but it's not the kind of meaning that people think it is. If meaning comes from your emotions, you're kind of born with your emotions, aren't you? And what I mean by that is you're born with the things that you like, let's put it that way. It's kind of like, I don't know. I'm going to get a little bit, I don't know, sexist maybe, but I was born always being very interested in technology. I always loved to, tinker with gadgets, even as a child, even as a very small child. I loved playing with electronic gadgets and things like that. And that's kind of a boys thing, I guess. Boys typically like that kind of thing. On the other hand, I never had much interest in clothes or fashion. I usually wear very simple clothes, just like a t-shirt and jeans. I'm not really a fashion person at all. And, it's typically a ladies' thing is considered a women's thing. And in fairness, it's not always the case. I mean, there are men who are, very aware of fashion. Stereotypically, they're mostly gay, but, I think there are also non-gay. I think there are heterosexual men who also like fashion. And, there are women. I mean, women don't necessarily have to love fashion. Women can also like playing with electronics. I've known women who enjoyed doing boys' things, playing with machines instead of playing with dresses and dolls. So, it's not that cut and dried. It's not necessarily that men like one thing and women like another thing. It's not that simple. But my point is that I was kind of born liking what I like, and I can't really change that too much. I can't suddenly just take a huge interest in clothes. Sometimes I might see somebody's suit or dress or whatever and say, oh, nice looking clothes. But it's not like a huge passion of mine, and I don't think that I could really turn it into one, even if I tried. Like, if I really, really tried hard, maybe I could learn more about fashion and clothes and maybe, get more into it. But I don't think that it's ever something that could really be like a huge life passion for me. It's just not something that I feel very strongly about. So, on the other hand, I like playing with machines. I like playing with computers, cars, things like that. These, again, typical boy things that boys like playing with, and men as well. So I think that's kind of something I was born with. I can't really change it. I can do different things. I have sometimes tried to do things that didn't seem interesting to me, just as a way of trying it. Just, try it out, see how it works for you. And, sometimes I discovered something that I thought I hadn't liked, and I found out, oh, it's actually kind of fun. I actually kind of like that. But most of the time I just kind of was like, yeah, it doesn't really do much for me. I mean, it was nice to try it once, but it's not my thing. So, I think people are kind of born with their preferences in that sense. I think an obvious analogy here, which probably many of you are thinking of, is sexual preference. Are people born gay or heterosexual or bisexual or whatever? I'm not going to get into that, but I think it's probably kind of the same thing. It's like I guess people are more or less born with a certain preference. And people talk about being fluid, gender fluid, and kind of go this way and the other. I mean, I guess it can change. Sure. I mean, things like tastes in things like food or music can sometimes change. I mean, I think I like different music now than I liked when I was a child. I like different foods now than when I was a child. So tastes can kind of change to some degree. There are also people who kind of move back and forth between being more gay or more straight or I don't know. I don't know exactly how human preferences work. I can't tell you how or why they sometimes shift, but I guess they can kind of shift over time, but I don't think they radically shift. I think you're kind of born imprinted with a set of things that you generally like and a set of things that you generally dislike. And you can't really change or control that too much. You can't just suddenly decide, I'm going to like something that I've never liked before. You can't just decide that you like something. You can, like I said, you can try it, but you can't just make yourself like something. And the inverse is true as well. You can't make yourself dislike something that you have generally always liked. If you've generally all your life long felt a certain sort of attraction or passion for something, you probably can't just decide, I don't like that anymore. I don't think it really works that way. You can kind of steer yourself to some extent. There's evidence for some kind of influence that you can have, like that you can willfully kind of control or at least influence how you feel about things. Yeah. But I don't think you can really radically change your inner nature. You're kind of born with these things. So that's where I think existentialists get it wrong. I think that people are in fact born with their sense of purpose, in the sense that they're born with things that they like and dislike. And your purpose, the thing that gives you meaning in life, is what you like. Or I guess I should say plural. I said the thing. I should say the things, because hopefully most people have more than one thing that they like. The things that you like, that's what gives you purpose in life. Those are the things that make your life meaningful. And that's the meaning of life. I don't think that you really have to search that hard. That's why I said, a lot of people try to search for something. I don't think you really need to search that much. You've probably had, I hope that you've had, I think most people have had, I really hope that you've had moments in your life where you felt like what you had done or what you'd experienced was great and meaningful for you without any explanation. You didn't need to say, oh, I liked that because, some reason. If you could just say, I liked that. I really loved that experience. Whatever happened to me, whatever I did, I really loved that. That was really great. Period. No reason given. You don't have to give a reason and say, I liked it because of something. I really liked doing that. That moment in my life made me feel personally like that was something meaningful to me. Those are the moments when you're alive. Those are the moments when you're really alive. Those are the moments when you're really doing what you were meant to do. Those are the moments that give meaning to your life. When you say, I loved doing that, I loved experiencing that, I loved that moment in my life without a reason. No reason, just that's the moment that I felt alive. That's the moment that I felt that my life was meaningful. That's what gives your life meaning. And again, I think you've probably already had moments like that in your life. Most people have. I hope that you have as well. And if you remember those moments, that's what makes your life meaningful. You don't need to search. You don't need to look for different things. It is, some people do like to try different things. And that's, like I said, by all means, try different things. Try stuff. If you've never done something before, give it a shot. Maybe you'll like it. And if not, then you haven't lost anything. But most people know, I think, by the time they reach adulthood and have, lived, in their lives for a few years, experiencing different things, I think most people kind of have an idea of what they like and what they don't. Most people have an idea of what kinds of things they enjoy and don't enjoy, what kinds of things are meaningful to you and what kinds of things are not meaningful to you. You probably already mostly know what makes your life meaningful. You don't really need to search. So, yeah, it's kind of like, it's kind of like, going back to philosophy, it's kind of like Kant's categorical imperative. Basically, Kant said that Kant's famous categorical imperative, like his rule for life was, I'm probably going to butcher it a little bit, I apologize, but he said something like, live according to your rules that you would make universal. If you think that something is a universal rule, then live according to that. So basically, like if you think that everybody should do this, everybody should live this way, then live that way, because that's your sense of ethics, that's your sense of morality. You think that life should be like this, then go ahead and live that way. I guess in today's more modern, enlightened world, whatever, it's a little bit different because everybody understands that people are different. What's valuable to me, what's important to me, what's just to me, in the sense of justice, I mean just in the sense of right and proper, is probably different than what's good and proper for other people. So, it can kind of be abused. I mean, like I could say, well, what's good and proper to me is that I have lots of money. So, what makes my life meaningful is money, and I should do everything I can to get as much money as I can. And so that's me living my most meaningful life by trying to pursue money in any way I can. You can do that. I think some people do live that way. I think there are people who have that mentality and live mostly for money. You can make your own opinions about that. I mean, I'm not saying money is bad. It's not bad to have money. Most people need money. Actually, it's okay to try to do things to get money, but I think the question is, how far are you willing to go? How immoral or how ruthless are you willing to be to try to get money? That kind of becomes the question. But people will say, can you abuse this idea? Can you abuse the idea of saying, well, my life is meaningful because of that? Sure, you can. I mean, if I do something bad, if I do something that, I don't know, hurts somebody else, or just somehow infringes on somebody else's, let's say, rights, even though I'm personally a little bit skeptical of the idea of human rights as it's sometimes discussed today, but let's go with that and say, I do something that infringes on someone else's human rights. And people might ask me, why did you do that? I can just say, well, that makes my life meaningful. I did that because that's meaningful to me, and it's my life, and I want to do the things that fulfill my life. I can say that's it made my life good. It made me feel good, and so therefore it's important, meaningful to me. I mean, yeah, you can abuse it, sure. You can abuse this idea and say, well, what I'm doing is meaningful to me, so therefore I should be doing it. I should do that because it makes my life meaningful. Yeah, you can abuse it like that, but I think that people who live as sociopaths or psychopaths, who really live without any consideration for other people, in the end probably won't have a very good life, because we recognize that we recognize people who are sociopaths. We recognize people who are psychopaths, who just use other people and abuse other people and take advantage of other people, and I think we sort of instinctively exclude those people from our lives. So I think those people won't really have good lives if they think that way. What can I say? But that's another matter. But I mean, my point is just that, if you try to go at it rationally, if you think about it logically in terms of philosophical formal logic, in terms of those P and Q rules that you probably learned in philosophy class, I don't think you're going to find any meaning there. I don't think that you can find any logical, mathematical, objective meaning in life. Meaning only comes from our emotions. So you don't need to search too much. You don't need to search for a meaning or reason in life, because that simply just doesn't exist. There's no final idea. There's no end idea. And when you reach this idea, it's like, okay, that's the end of your life. You've reached this truth now. That's the end of your journey. There's no end idea or final, great idea waiting for you. So you don't need to search like that. Now, let me get into something which I think is relevant for many people, including myself, and I think this is one of the reasons why I have sometimes struggled with sadness in my life. What do you do if you were not born with a sense of meaning? What do you do if you personally were born as a person who does not take joy or pleasure or meaning in the things that most people take pleasure in or meaning in? Speaking for myself, I think most people take very great meaning from something like, what's an example? I don't know. Family. For most people, family is very meaningful. I can say that it's not that meaningful to me, honestly. I mean, I never had much of a family in the first place, and I did sometimes not get along very well with my family, unfortunately. And again, I don't want to get into details about my personal life or complain about how bad my life is, but I'm going to be perfectly honest. Family doesn't mean that much to me. And I realize that probably sounds like a terrible thing to say, but I'm just being honest. I was never really that close to most of my family. I'm even less close to them now than I was when I was a child. I don't have my parents anymore. I have some, extended family that I am fairly rarely in contact with. And I don't have what do you call, not the birth family, but like your, I don't know what's the term for, the family that make yourself, like when you get married and have your own children. I don't have that either. I've been married. I've been divorced twice. I have no children of my own, so I don't have really any kind of family. And I don't even really feel bad about that. Like, I never really had a very strong desire to have children. I've never in my life, I'm 42 right now, and I've never in my life felt a very strong desire to have children. I probably never will. And I'm okay with that idea, honestly. I know some people will feel very sad, and I've heard many people say, my one regret in life was not having children. If I could go back and live my life over again, I would want to have children. That's like my one regret in life. I personally don't feel that way. Maybe I will in another 40 years. Like I said, I'm 42 now. Maybe when I'm 80 something, maybe I'll look back and say, oh, I wish I'd had children. I can't know that. That's one of the problems in life. You can't know how you will feel. You only know how you feel now. Well, you know how you felt in the past. You know how you felt in the past. You know how you feel now. You cannot know how you will feel in the future. That's one of the reasons why marriages fail. I think both of my marriages failed because we thought, we'll feel this way forever. And then we found out after a while, we don't feel that same way anymore. You cannot know how you will feel in the future. So I don't know how I will feel in the future. But my point is, for most people, family is something very important. It doesn't mean that much to me. Family does not mean as much to me as I think it means for most people. Yeah, like I said, I don't have much of a family, and even if I did, I don't think that it would give me a sense of meaning or purpose in life the way it does for some people. So, I think it's possible, theoretically, for a person to be born without some great sense of meaning or purpose. If you feel that you're one of those people, don't despair, because I think, honestly, that most people are actually not born with some really grand sense of purpose. People start thinking about being on some grand life's mission. Again, it might be, if you're religious, it might be some kind of, maybe you're on a mission from God. Many people feel that they're on some kind of political mission, in terms of political, environmental activism, for example, or some other, people who go to protests may feel that they're, fulfilling some kind of life mission that they were born to do. But I think most people were not really born with a great sense of purpose, a great drive to do something, to kind of fulfill this purpose in life. A lot of people just kind of exist. That's okay. Or maybe it's not. I guess it's a matter of opinion. It's an opinion. But it's okay to not be some huge larger-than-life figure. I mean, not everybody can be Elon Musk or Steve Jobs or Bill Gates, these kinds of people. Not everybody's going to be some great hero. Not everybody has to be, not everybody can be, and I think that's okay. It's okay to just be a normal person who does normal person things. And if you don't feel that you were born with any great sense of purpose, if you don't feel that you were born with some incredible sense of meaning that infuses your life with this magical energy, that's okay. But again, you probably have had moments in your life where you just loved doing something just for doing it. Not for any kind of purpose, not saying I'm doing this because, but just because I love doing this. I love doing this so much that it makes me feel great, it makes me feel fulfilled, it makes me feel like my life has value. That's your meaning of life. Those things that you did in those moments when you felt that way, whatever you were doing when you felt that way, that is your meaning of life. That's what makes your life meaningful. That's your personal meaning of life. And of course, it's different for every person. So, yeah. How did I deal with existential depression? Again, what I called ideological depression as opposed to, clinical depression, not something as a result of some physical problem in my brain, but as a result of ideas that I had in my head. I came to understand that, there's no objective, logical, rational meaning to life. And that's okay. That doesn't mean that life is a waste of time. It doesn't mean that you have no reason to be alive. It just means that you need a non-logical reason to be alive. Human beings are fundamentally not logical creatures. We're capable of thinking logically sometimes, but that logical thinking is not what gives us a reason to live. Logical thinking is something useful when you're doing math or science, technology, engineering, whatever, but it's not something that will give you a personal meaning of life. And again, I have had moments in my life that touched my heart, that made me feel emotional. And when I think back on those moments, I'm getting emotional now just thinking about those moments. When I think back on those moments, I recognize them, I understand. That is what makes my life meaningful. And I'm not going to tell you what my personal moments are because I don't want to mislead you. I don't want to, again, it's different for everyone. You need to think about it for yourself. I don't want to distract you with my personal feelings because they're only relevant for me. They may be relevant for some people, but I want to make this message kind of universal for everyone, for every human being on Earth and in the universe, because I think that this is a fairly universal truth. You need to look inside yourself and find what, for you, makes your life meaningful. And you have to search your emotions. Remember how you felt. Remember how you felt when things happened. Because when you felt the most emotional in your life, the things that most stirred your emotions, even if it was a negative experience, sometimes, you realize what's important to you because you had a negative experience. People say, you only realize what's important to you once it's gone. You don't realize how important something is until it's gone. If you lost something or someone in your life, if you had a very negative, bad emotional experience, that can also show you what's meaningful to you, because you'll realize when something makes you that emotional, you realize that's something important to you, that's something meaningful to you. So all your most emotional moments in life, good and bad, those are the moments that will tell you what's meaningful to you. That will tell you what is your personal meaning of life. And again, I don't think you have to look that hard. It's not like you have to go to the ends of the earth to search for this meaning. I think it is something that exists within you. You as a human being, you have experiences, you have emotions, you've had moments, I hope, when you felt like something was meaningful to you. Those are the moments that you're alive. Those are the moments that tell you what your life is about. And when I came to understand this, when I came to realize that life is that way, that that's what meaning is, that meaning is not something that you can just think up. It's not something that you can create through some logical, mental, intellectual process. And it's not something that you can find out there in the world. It's something that exists, within you. And I know that sounds very corny. That sounds very corny. Like, oh, you have to look within yourself, look deep in your heart, and you find the meaning there. I realize that it sounds corny, but why do people say it? Because it's true. It's true, isn't it? I mean, you can't really... Maybe it sounds stupid, but if it's true, then what else can I say? So again, going back to those people who say, well, just enjoy your life, just do what you love doing, go and party and whatever. Maybe you don't like partying. I don't like places where, where it's very noisy most of the time. I don't like places where people are, getting drunk, taking drugs. That's not my kind of scene. So I don't personally usually like those kinds of parties. That doesn't mean that I don't enjoy doing things that make me feel good. I enjoy doing things that make me feel personally happy and fulfilled. But maybe I don't find my fulfillment in a bottle of alcohol and a dance floor and some pills of, whatever kind people are taking. That's fine. Everybody has their own fulfillment. Everybody has their own source of emotional fulfillment and meaning in life. So in the end, it comes down to do what's meaningful for you. And I guess that's how I dealt with my sense of existential depression, because I came to understand that I wasn't missing anything. There's not something that I needed to desperately search for. There wasn't something that there wasn't some great idea that was missing in my brain that I somehow hadn't discovered. My sense of meaning comes to me spontaneously in life. And when I know what it is, when I know what's meaningful to me, I can pursue the things that make my life meaningful. And in that sense, I can make my life meaningful through my emotional response to things that are personally important, valuable, and meaningful to me. That's all. Thanks for listening, everyone. I hope that this was meaningful. Pun not intended, to at least some of you. I think that it will be. I know that there are many people who will say, well, duh, it's so obvious. Why did he waste our time saying that? But I personally went through a personal, emotional, and intellectual journey to reach these ideas that was probably a lot longer than it should have been. I think it took me a lot more time than it should have taken to realize these things that I've said. And so because I realized that maybe these things are obvious to some people, but I think there are people for whom they're not so obvious. I'm one of those people. They weren't really obvious to me. It may sound obvious when I'm saying it now. They weren't obvious to me when I was younger. And I think there are a lot of people for whom these ideas are not obvious either. So I hope that for those people this has been helpful in some way. Again, thank you for watching, everyone. And for listening. Take care of yourselves.